Good day, candidates. Once again, welcome to this tutorial. Today, we're going to be looking at cash budget that was written in November 2021. Look at that question paper and look at question 3. It was cash budget. It's a written budgeting and it had 35 marks for half an hour. So be mindful and make sure that you also practice cash budget. It has many free marks that you can take advantage of. So let's look at the question. Shepstone traders sell household appliances for cash and on credit. They also charge fees for repairing appliances, but only for cash. The business owner is Brian Jones. The information relates to the budget period November 2021 to January 2022. You are required to calculate the amounts indicated by A to C on the debtors collection schedule provided in the answer sheet. Remember, last year, 2022, the first question was provide the creditor's payment schedule, but now is debtor's collection schedule. So understand how you calculate the difference. The debtor's collection schedule has to do with credit sales, whereas the creditor's payment schedule has to do with credit purchases. Just make sure that you can differentiate between the two. So let's look at 3.1, and you are provided with the answer sheet. The answer sheet that will be provided, when you look at the answer sheet, it is partially completed for us, and that is one of the main reasons why they gave this exercise half an hour. And if it is partially completed for us, you can test some of the amounts if they arrived at them correctly. It's up to you, or you can just go straight and answer the question. But because I just want to facilitate and make sure that you take maximum marks and make sure that I show you methods of taking these marks, let's look at the question itself. And on the answer sheet we just saw, and then we look at the question itself. It has to do about information. Information is given. Number A, sales and cost of sales. Total sales are given, and mind you, these are total sales, these are total cost of sales. And when we deal with that collection schedule, we know that we are dealing with credit sales. Given is total sales. We're dealing with credit sales. Read the adjustment B. Credit sales, 40% of total sales are on credit. When you look at the answer sheet, it's calculated for us. You can just test one of the amounts, just like 364,000, to see if they arrived at 40%. Let's test that amount of December. You look at December just for your own test to say, you take your calculator, you want to do your own test to say, let's look at December, 910,000 multiplied by that 40% to represent credit sales, 364,000. And when you look at December, you are satisfied about the amount written by the examiners. So it tells you that all these amounts were recorded and they are correct. Sometimes they will not give you these credit sales and you have to calculate them on yourself. Make sure that you take total sales and deduct the percentage that will be given. It will always be given that percentage. Now, let's read additional information. We did our test. Let's read additional information, which is C. C says 30% debtors are paid according to the following trend. 30% paid in the month of sale and receive a 5% discount. 30% paid in the month of sale and receive the 5% discount. 45% paid in the month following the month of sale, 22% paid in the second month following the month of sale. Bad debts are taken into account in the third month. Very simple. Very nice. You just follow the steps. Like, even if you want to test this 67,760, now you can see that October, what happened? 30%. November, what happened? 45%. December, what happened? 22%. In that line transaction of October. So you can see that December is recorded, and this December is after 2 months. So for you to test again, these tests are very significant. You will say 308,000 and you check after 2 months what was the condition or the trend. The trend after 2 months was 22% paid in the second month after the date of sale. And when we test this amount is times 22%. And when you times 22%, that amount is recorded for us. But this is after 3 months, and we must realize bad debts. How to get these bad debts? You go back to this 308,000. And what you do this sequence of trend. What is the trend saying about these credit sales? If you have to do everything about that transaction, is 30% paid in the month of sale and receive 5% discount. 30% paid in the month of sale, they paid 95%, and then they paid 30%. 95% because we took advantage of 5% discount, and this transaction was supposed to be recorded October. But when we check here, we have December, we have January. This does not apply. And then the very same 308,000 again, very same 308,000. What is the trend the next month? A month after the date of sale, it was 45%. And you record that 45%. What is the trend again for this 308,000? Because you want to determine the bad debt. And this is the only way to determine the bad debt. And what is the calculation for the second month is 22%. We already did that, times 22%. And when you times 22%, it's going to be 67,760. We did that calculation, and that is why it is disclosed in December. And then let's calculate the November amount, 308,000 times 45%. We follow that trend, 600, and then you take that first one, 308,000 times 95%. When you do percentage, sometimes you can say, just say comma 95, it represents 95%, times comma 3, it represents 30%, and when you get that is 87,780. 87,780. And then these three amounts. Now we have the total. The total of 308,000. This is the total that we're dealing with, this total of 308,000. Now we want to determine what? We want to determine the bad debts. And they must be written off. How to determine the bad debts? You take that 308,000, you subtract these three amounts. Whatever that is going to remain is going to represent the bad debts. Which, how do you calculate it? You say equals to, you use your calculator, you take 308,000 minus 87,780 minus 13,860. Not 138. Okay, it's that plus this amount. And then the total that you're going to get. I think my calculation is wrong. Here, minus again. Minus. So when you minus 308,000 is, so 13,860, it tells us that this 13,860 is a bad debt. That's how you calculate it, and that's how you're going to arrive at this amount. And then you look at B. B, it's December. For December, it's already calculated for us, because that December, how they arrived at this 103,740. And this is very important because the examiners, there was an error there that was done by the examiners. So even examiners can do errors. But let's look at this, because we are dealing with credit sales. You don't take cash sales. And the error is that the examiners took cash sales. Human error happens. It happens to anyone. So let's look at this 364,000 for December, because we want to arrive at this B. 364,000, just like we did the first one, times, which the first month was 95%. Why? Take advantage of that discount of 5% multiplied by 30%. And when we do such, we're going to get this amount of 103,740. It should be like that. And this 364,000 multiplied by the trend of 45%, which is going to answer January. And that is what they are requesting us to show. And let's do that calculation for argument's sake so that you understand what I'm talking about. 364,000 multiplied by 95%, multiplied by 30%, which is that trend, and it gives you 103,740. We're happy with that. And the next trend was 364,000 multiplied by 45%, and it answers this 163,800. And this is your answer here, 163,800. But guess what? The examiners, and I'm going to use another color here, like the examiners, what they did, they used the total, and this is 40%. Remember that the cash sales were told, the credit sales were told that it is 40%, but the examiners used the 60%, such that they took this 10,000 for December. Was it for January? For December, for January, yes, because I want to show you how this arrived. They took this amount for January, 10,000, and they multiplied it by 60%, which is incorrect. It's incorrect because the trend is credit sales. So even C, let's look at C, January, 352,800. 352,800. I'm going to write it here. 352,800. 352,800. What happens about 352,800 is must not be on rate, because I was showing that rate because errors done by the examiners, human errors. 352,800. How are we gonna treat 352,800 multiplied by, because it's for January. January is for January, so we must use the trend of the first month, which is times 95%, multiplied by 30%, and then whatever we get there is that amount. Let me put a line here so that at least you can see. Now, this is 352,800 times 95% times 30%, and is the trend for the first month, 352,800 times 95% times 30%. And this is the answer, 100,548. And that 100,548 comes here. But the examiners, what they did, they use 60%, which we will completely disagree. And when you look at January, is 882,000. I want to show you that because you always rely on memorandum, and something if doesn't look like memorandum to you, it becomes foreign. Sometimes we are all humans and we do errors, and such errors can coincide and make you mad sometimes with the knowledge that you already gathered, most especially if you are working under pressure. It becomes very difficult. Follow these tutorials and go there understanding who you are, what you stand for, and you're gonna make yourself very, very proud. So what they did, they took that total of 882,000 times 60%, which is cash. We're not dealing with cash here. We're not interested as to cash is cash, you buy. But now when you buy on credit, there are conditions. You must sign something. They must, when you do, you must comply. There must be compliance. So part of the compliance here was that 882,000 times 60%, and because it's the first month, like I did there, and then same calculation, but the problem was the error, human error. Instead of 40%, they were supposed to use 60%, vice versa. So when you check this, you will see on that memorandum that they posted on the Department of Education page, it has these answers, which we will completely disagree. The answer should have been 40%, and this is how you should have done your answer. Thank you very much. Let's go to 3.2. Calculate the amount for December 2021. 3.2, what does it say? Calculate the amount indicated by A to C on the cash budget. You look at the cash budget. You don't have to stress about that. You check what is the content on the cash budget. And the content is that it's given. Cash budget is an extract. everything is there, and then they speak of this rent income. They put it A. It tells you that there's something that we need to do about rent income will be increased by 9% per annum effective from 1 January 2022. And the amount was already recorded for January, and it takes into account the increase they are speaking about because it happened at the beginning of January. So obviously when they recorded this, it includes that increase. So for December, we must exclude that increase. How do we exclude that increase? There are many methods that you can use. 20056. Why 20056 is the clue that is given, and to deduct that, you're gonna say, okay, 20056 times 100 divide by, what is the percentage there? By 9%, 109. And then once you do that, it will just show you the amount that is supposed to be recorded before it was increased. 20056. So it's gonna be 20056 multiplied by 100 divided by 109, and then you will get that amount of 18,400. There are other methods that you can use to get this 18,400. It's just that I wanted to go straight. Or you can say or. When you say or, what you do is you say 056 multiplied by 9 divided by 109, and then still you will get that deduction when you do it in this particular method, like 20056 multiplied by 9 divided by 109. It will give you that deduction of 1656, and then you can deduct that on 20056 when you say minus 20056. So whichever method that you prefer is correct. Let's look at the next adjustment, which is B, payment to creditors. They gave us also the payment to creditors. Payment to creditors for December is already recorded. And we need to read number D, purchases and payment to creditors. 80% of stock is purchased on credit. So hence I'm always saying stock sold is replaced in the month of sales. Creditors are paid 2 months after the purchase month, are paid 2 months after the purchase month. So when you do that, you're like, okay, I need 80% of cost of sales. And my November will be paid in January. 456,000 multiplied by 80%, and then that's it. And that amount is gonna be 456,000 multiplied by 8, 364,800. 364,800. Why 2 months after? And then you have the last question now, which is number C. Let's look at the asterisk for number C, what it has to do with what? It has to do with salaries, cleaning services. Now, you read the information. Shepstone Traders undertake special and extensive cleaning and sanitation during December each year. This has the effect on increasing the cleaning services budget by 65% in December only. The normal monthly fee is expected to increase by 5% per annum, commencing on 1 January. Which amount is given? So 15,510 is given. We need to determine number C. So you use that 15,510. That 15,510, when you read carefully the adjustment, it says it will increase. The normal monthly fee are expected to increase by 5%. So an increase always is multiplied by 5% is 1,05, because we want to add 100%, 5% is 1,05. And then when you look again, they had a budget of 65%. Divided by 65%, 1,65. Or you can say 15,510 multiplied by 105 divided by 165. And surely you will get the same answer. Let's do that calculation. Use your calculator. And when I use my calculator, it says 15,510 multiplied by 1,05, 1,05 divide by 1,65. So you get that 9,870. Even if either way, whatever calculation, it's how you calculate it. And then we're going to move to 3.3. And 3.3 says 3.3, not 3.4. 3.3 says workload of employees refer to information G. So there is information that is given that we must refer to, which is information G. It also tells you that this question is independent from 3.1 and 3.2. So when you do cash budget, sometimes they give you independent questions that you can take free marks independently. So let's look at that. Brian is concerned about the workload of his staff. He plans to reduce the sales staff by 1 person. The other sales staff members are not happy with this plan. Provide 2 points that Brian can explain to his sales staff to justify his plan. Quote figures. It's about retrenchment. Something is wrong. When something is wrong, we look at sales. What are the sales? How are the sales taking place? We look at the customers. Are the customers coming in? And let's go and look at information G for argument's sake. Information G, it doesn't read, it's just an information to say number of sales employees, including the driver, there were 5, and Brian is planning to retrench 1. Number of customers on sales, 230, 175, quote figures, he budgeted for 230 customers, but the actual was only, you quoted figures and you quoted 2 figures, the actual was only 175. 175. And that difference, let's calculate the difference and see how much is the difference. 230 customers minus 175, and the difference is 55. And you can see 55, it was 55 less. Or you can also put the percentage to say, in terms of the budget, they budgeted for 230, divide by 230, and you can see that only 23.9% times 100. 23.9%. You can leave it like that. You got your full marks if you do it like this. What happened to the sales in terms of information G? Total sales, cash sales, credit sales. Now, total sales increased. The budget for total sales was 978,000, but only actual is 707,000. So he also budgeted for 798,000, but the actual was 707,000. Was only 707,000. And once you do it like this, you just get your free marks and show them the percentage to say 798,000 it was budgeted, the actual minus 707,000 is equals to 91,000. That 91,000 divided by 7, the budget. We are dealing with cash budget, so everything you divide by the budgeted amount, you get that it was only 11.4%, which is 11.4%. You leave it like that because now you get your full marks. You get your full marks. You get to the next question in that philosophy And then the next question is, because we dealt with 3.3, explain why the repair staff members are not satisfied with their workload. Code figures. We look at the repair staff now. Let's look at the repair staff. It's easy. These are independent marks that you look at the information given, which is G. Now, repair staff. We have 2 repairs staff. Now, number of customers, budgeted 70, but actual 136. More. Actual. You just write that. Actual. Let's look at actual. Actual amount. Actual amount is, and you can quote figures in a different fashion. I'm just showing you different ways of quoting figures. To say actual amount is, you look at actual amount, you take your calculator, you are like, okay, here's the actual amount of total sales, 707,000 minus 798,000. And you can put it like 91,000 to say actual amount is 91,000 more than budgeted. Therefore, you can see tied up by work. They are tied up by work. You can just mention that, you don't mention that, is the same. And you can also mention the percentage to say, okay, the percentage of this is divided by what was budgeted for. It's 798,000, which is 11.4%. Equals to 11.4%. Another reason when you check this, because there are plenty of reasons that you can give, but 2 will be sufficient, or 3 if you like. You look at now to say, okay, let's look at the fee income. The fee income, because remember they said repair customers, they repair on cash only. They don't repair on credit. You can read that. I did read that. We did read that. Cash only. But you look at now fee income, it's more. Fee income, actual fee income is more than budgeted for by. I'm showing you angles. Whether you mention it in this particular fashion or in that first point fashion, but quote those figures. Actual was budget. Actual fees. How much? Both of us can see that by how much. Fee income, 66,000 minus 66,000 minus 32,000 by 34,000. You write that by 34,000, or if you like, put that percentage. They love them. They love those percentages. Divide by how much was it budgeted for? It was budgeted for 32,000. Divided by 32,000. And on that 32,000 times 100, 106.2%, or 106.2%. You show the examiners. Don't be scared to show the examiners what is happening. Another point maybe you can mention there is like the last one, for bonus sake, that it comes from me to you, to say, let's look at salaries of repair staff. Wages, they are paid wages. And when you look at the wages paid, it's fixed between two of them. Wages, you just write them this. They are complaining. Oh, but he doesn't increase the salary. Look at the workflow. They are complaining. They have a right to complain. I think I agree with them to say, this sometimes it just wants to fail me. but I will not allow it. Employees, both employees are paid 5,500 per month, regardless of repairs taking place. You can see that. Regardless of the repairs, both employees are paid 5,500. So they are complaining that the workload is too much for them, but they are not getting so much. So there are many things we can mention here, but we will limit them to these answers. Any other answer that is relevant, you can mention. Even here, you can check the salaries earlier, what was happening to the salaries, and mention that. And you can check those salaries of sales staff was actually 82,000. Regardless of the customers coming in, we must pay 82,000, and he finds himself losing because he budgeted to 30 customers and he has to pay this 80,000. Only 175 customers came in, but still he had to pay this 82,000. So this is part of general knowledge that you must mention to the examiners. Let's move to the next question. What is the next question? What suggestion can you offer to solve the problem of the workload of employees? Come on, guys. Employ more staff. There are many reasons. Train staff members. These two reasons are sufficient because they said mention two reasons, but let's mention other two reasons. And you can mention maybe an other reason like increase wages, and that will encourage these workers to actually work more on that department. So this is how you solve these questions. Now we move to 3.4. Sales trends. What about sales trend? Comment on the cash and credits. Sales figures for November 2021. Explain why Brian is concerned. Quote figures. Refer to information G again. Comment on the cash and credit sales. Let's refer to information G and comment on cash and credit sales. Cash sales. Oh my gosh. Budgeted. Actual. Simple. Quote figures. Actual sales was it more or less than budgeted for? Was it more or was less than? Because actual sales was less than budgeted for. Now that less, it's a free mark. And now you quote figures. How do you quote figures? You open the bracket. You say you show them. You show them that actual was cash sales. We are talking about cash sales. Actual was 142,000. Or budgeted was 478,800. Minus, the examiner will appreciate if you show him these calculations. Or you show the examiner the percentage, how to do the percentage. You look at the actual minus the budget, divide by the budget. Now let's look at 478,800 minus the actual 142,000 divided by the budget 478,800. So it's 70.3%, which is equals to 70.3%. While again we check credit sales. What about the credit sales? Credit sales were budgeted while actual credit sales were more than budgeted for. Also, you quote figures. To quote figures, you look at credit sales, same thing that you did earlier, 565,000. And usually at this stage, you don't have time anymore remaining. But once you write these 319, 200, these amounts, the examiners won't disqualify you with free marks. You will get free marks as they are, whether you mention this bracket or you mention the percentage. It's not like you must mention everything. I'm just showing you for the sake of facilitation and for the sake of completeness. And please, if you enjoy this, what we're doing here, please subscribe. And you can ask any question, and then I will attend to that question, because I'm doing this for you, you know. So once you do that, equals to 565,000 minus 319, 200 is equals to, and you check which amount is budgeted for. Is it 319, 200? We're dealing with budget. Divide by 319, 200. And then you show them that percentage of 77%, which is 77%. And that's it. That's it. If you want to go extra mile, you can show divide it by sales, total sales. And then we don't have to go extra mile. You get your free marks of 3.4. Let's look at 3.4 again. How much marks? 3.4. And look, it's an independent question. And you get these 3 marks will make a huge difference. You are gonna get B, you are gonna get A, you're gonna get A with these 3 marks, provided all these tutorials I'm doing, you attend to them. I assure you, I'm not gonna mention the symbol you're gonna get, but I'm gonna say to you, you're gonna make yourself very proud. Look at 3.5 is also an independent question. It's a question like they can ask independently. So look at all this question. It has nothing to do with 3.5, and it has 6 marks. Variances, the budgeted and actual figures for November 2021 are provided. Comment on the control over fuel. We look at fuel. Budgeted was 2,800. The actual usage was 19,900. Fair. You look at consumable stores for repairs, 8,000, but the actual was 12,100. And then you comment on that by quoting figures. Even my spellings here are incorrect, but let me correct them. Actual. Because it doesn't know how to write spellings. So I'm not going to attend to it. No, you're missing the point. Now let's look at the fuel. Was it more or actual fuel was less than budgeted for? Actual fuel was less than budgeted for. And then you quote figures. How do you quote figures? I'm going to show that difference because I want to show you different styles. You quote figures, you go to that information again. Where's that? Oh, the information is given just here. Quote figures of fuel, its actual was 2,800. And if it's given like this, you just have to take a variance because it's given. Even if you mention, still mention, because they will not disqualify you for this. 2,800 minus 19,900, and that variance is 600. And then you show them also the percentage of that. The percentage of that, how do you do it? You take the variance because it's already calculated. 900 divided by the budget. How much is the budget? 2,800. Because why? We're dealing with cash budget. We're dealing with cash budget. So, which is equals to 4.3%. 4.3%. And that's it. You got your answer there. You comment. You look at the marks. Comment on consumable stores because you don't have time now. Consumable stores, actual was more than budgeted for. Actual consumables was more than budgeted for by how much? Sometimes you can mention it in that fashion, by 4,100. Or by, you just mentioned the start by mentioning the percentage, not 4,000, by that percentage, because usually we speak in terms of percentages when we get to this level. It increased by 6%, and then as an accountant you know what do we mean. So consumables was 4,100, divide by the budget. Always we're dealing with cash budget, so you don't divide it by actual. 4,100 divide by 8,000 rand, and then you get times 100, you get 50 by 51.2%, by 51.2%. Or you can just mention that difference of a variance to say by 4,100. By 4,100. Actual consumables was more than budgeted for. And these are your answers. Quick, simple, without problems. But now, because you still have time and you're like, okay, for me to make one, there are students that will say, no, to make one line item will not qualify me 3 marks. But that 3 marks, what qualifies these 3 marks is to mention figures and to mention that less or more. More, it's an answer. Less, it's a free mark. This is a free mark. This is a free mark. Let's mention maybe one other argument. Maybe here fee income is more than budgeted for. Fee income is more than budgeted for. And that fee income, you can refer earlier, we did that transaction just for the sake of completeness, and you get your full maximum marks. If you mention like this, you can see that there was no proper control over delivery vehicle. And assuming all customers requires delivery. You use your general knowledge most of the time when you attend these questions. The examiners know that there are things that you know and knows that you can compare. And if you are familiar with their style of questioning, I don't think you will have problems in resolving these questions. Make sure that you also go on the exam, you understand your cash budget fully. See you in the next tutorial.